Welcome back to Inspired Talks. Today, I want to share something very personal, a story that isn't about success, but about what happens before it. A story about falling down, breaking apart, and somehow finding the courage to stand again. This is The Fall and the Fight. Part 1, The Fall. I still remember that night. The room was dark, silent, and heavy, like the air itself was tired of me. My phone screen glowed faintly beside me, showing unread messages, job rejection emails, and an unfinished draft of my resume. I didn't even have the energy to reply anymore. It had been months since I lost my job. Every morning, I woke up thinking, maybe today will be better. But by evening, the same hopeless thoughts would creep in. What if this is it? What if I never rise again? You know, people often say, stay strong. But no one tells you how to stay strong when your mind feels like it's collapsing on itself. I wasn't physically hurt. I was just mentally exhausted. It felt like my own thoughts were punching me from the inside. My parents didn't know how bad it was. I would smile at dinner, crack jokes, say, I'm fine. But at night, I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder, what am I even doing with my life? I had dreams, big ones, to make something out of myself, to do something that mattered. But failure has a way of making you forget who you are. Part 2, The Breakdown. One morning, I woke up and couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I saw a stranger, tired eyes, messy hair, dull skin, fake smile. I was only 25, but I felt like I'd lived 100 years of disappointment. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed that day, staring at my hands, thinking, when did I lose control? When did I stop believing in myself? Then, something broke inside me. Not in a dramatic way, no shouting, no crying, just quiet surrender, like a candle that gives up against the wind. For the next few days, I didn't talk to anyone, didn't eat properly, didn't reply to calls or messages. I stopped checking job portals. I stopped everything. Because what's the point of trying when every door seems to slam shut? But deep inside, something strange was still alive, a whisper, a tiny, stubborn part of me that said, you're not done yet. I ignored it at first, but that whisper wouldn't stop. Every night it returned, soft but persistent, almost like my soul refusing to give up on me. Part 3, The Encounter. One evening, I went for a walk. The streets were empty, the wind was cold, and my mind was louder than ever. That's when I saw him, an old man sitting on a park bench, feeding stray dogs. He looked peaceful, too peaceful for someone sitting alone at 9 p.m. Out of curiosity, I sat beside him. He smiled and said, you look like someone carrying a heavy backpack. I forced a smile back. Yeah, something like that. He looked up at the sky and said something I'll never forget. Do you know why rain is beautiful? Because it doesn't ask permission to fall. It just falls and still finds a way to make everything grow again. I just stared at him. He continued, sometimes, son, falling is not failure. It's how we prepare for the next season of growth. That night, his words hit me harder than any motivational quote I'd ever read. It wasn't dramatic, just real, like truth disguised as a conversation. I went home quietly, but my mind wouldn't stop replaying those words. Rain doesn't ask permission to fall. Maybe I didn't need permission to start again either. Part 4, The Rebuilding. The next morning, I did something small. I cleaned my room. Sounds silly, right? But that tiny act made me feel like I had taken control of something again. Then I made a list. Keycap 1, wake up before 7. Keycap 2, exercise for 20 minutes. Keycap 3, apply for 3 jobs daily. Keycap 4, read 1 chapter of a book. Keycap 5, write 1 thing I'm grateful for. That's it. No big plans. Number 30-day challenges. Just 5 small steps. My way of telling life, I'm not done yet. Days passed. Then weeks. Some days I felt motivated. Some days I didn't even want to get out of bed. But I did anyway. Not because I felt strong, but because I had decided to try again. One day, I got an interview call. For a small company, nothing fancy. I wasn't even sure I wanted it, but I went. When they asked, why should we hire you? I didn't give a rehearsed answer. I just said, because I've failed enough to know what not to do. I've been broken enough to understand what strength really means. And I'm still here, still trying. The interviewer smiled. And for the first time in months, I smiled back, genuinely. A week later, I got the job. Not my dream job, but my restart job. And sometimes, that's all you need, a restart. Part 5, The Fight. Life didn't magically fix itself after that. Bills still came, doubts still visited, and stress still knocked on my door. But something inside me had changed. Now when life said, "You can't," I whispered back, "Watch me." I started taking evening walks again. And every time it rained, I smiled, remembering that old man's words. Rain doesn't ask permission to fall. One rainy night, I went back to that same park bench. But he wasn't there. Maybe he never was. Maybe he was life itself, disguised as a stranger, reminding me that even storms can be teachers. That night, I looked up at the dark sky, raindrops falling on my face, and said quietly, "Thank you for breaking me so I could rebuild myself." Because sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself, and sometimes you have to fall just to remember how to fight. Pause, soft music tone. If you're listening to this and you're tired, if you've been fighting silent battles that no one knows about, please remember this. You don't need to have it all figured out today. You just need to show up. Because showing up is half the victory. Pain doesn't last forever. Darkness doesn't win forever. And you, yes, you are not weak for feeling lost. You are strong because you're still trying. So pick yourself up. Take one small step. And remember, your story isn't over yet. It's just getting started. Studio microphone, this was The Fall and the Fight. Thank you for listening to Inspired Talks. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes, one story can save a life.